If you're using a desktop or laptop computer, the computer desktop is your interface to everything. And a lot of people put a forest of icons on the desktop. That way they can see all of the various programs that they have. That helps them get to those programs because they're immediately visible. The problem with this is that usually you're running some other program, or in my case, many programs, and those desktop icons are covered up. So you have to do other things to get to them, and that makes your life inefficient. Now, there are several solutions to this. One is to pin icons to the taskbar. This is a very good place to put them. The advantage of this is that any icon on the taskbar, you can start the program with a single click, which, as I said, is a very valuable thing. Icons on the desktop require a double click, and often we fail when doing that, and it's more of a pain. Now, the taskbar has limited room on it, and so you only want to put the things there that you're going to use very frequently. Most of the times you use your computer. Now, one problem is that with Windows 10, this Cortana Ask Me Anything bar takes up a lot of space. There's a really easy solution to that that gives you a lot more room for icons, and that is to go to the taskbar. And we go to the taskbar, we right click, we choose settings. That gets us to the taskbar setting, and we're going to choose the option that hides that. And I think it's this option right here, automatically hide the taskbar in desktop mode. If you have multiple displays like I do, putting a taskbar on all of your displays I also find very useful. Anyway, so that's going to hide that. And notice here, now my taskbar isn't even there. All I have to do is move my cursor down here and it reappears. But as we see, I haven't managed to hide the Cortana. And if we right click here, instead of going to settings under Cortana, there's a choice here, and we can hide it totally or just show the icon. And I recommend showing the icon because then you can get to it. It becomes just a single Ask Me Anything thing, and if you click on it, you get the normal Cortana interface. So anyway, those are a couple of tips. Hiding a taskbar gives you a lot more room on your desktop vertically, and vertical space on the desktop you'll find in a lot of applications is important. It's good to have a little bit more. Now, the next thing is this menu over here. Windows 10 brought back a menu over here, and you can customize this menu. You can control a little bit about what appears here and what doesn't. But the problem is that no longer can you show the most recently used things. My experience is that on any given day or week, there are certain programs that I'm using a lot at that time. And if I go down here and to all programs and search for one of these programs and find it, let's say I want to use LibreOffice or whatever. If I click on it, it starts the program, and that's all fine and good. But the next time I want to start that program, which, as I said, I'm likely to want to do again that week, is it's no longer in the frequently used thing. Most used is that. It's the ones you've used most often since you've had this machine. And it's really not a useful list, but somehow Microsoft has taken away the old wonderful frequently used thing. My solution to this has been to put back the custom shell, and we can look at how to get the custom shell. But there's a setting when you put in custom shell, there's a setting that lets you have this list be the most frequently used. And I pin a lot of things to most frequently used. Like I might right click here and say pin, and I can pin it to the taskbar down at the bottom, but I can also pin to this start menu. And now it's up here above this line. And everything above that line stays in that position. You can move them around, order them the way you want, but everything above the line stays there. Everything below the line keeps changing. Whatever you use last, whatever you started from the All Programs menu, ends up at the very top of the list. And as you choose other programs, they'll come above it. They'll start going down this list, and eventually, as you run out of space at the bottom, they'll get pushed off. But if there's something you don't really need in this list because you have it somewhere else, like FastStart Capture is now down on the start menu, if I right click here, I can say remove from this list. So that's a nice way to keep this with all of the things that you have used recently. And as I say, there's no way that I've found with a lot of searching on Google to get back the most recently used feature. There is a setting you have to use when setting up the classic shell. Go to Settings and go to the tab called Main Menu, and if you don't see as many tabs as you see here, go to click on this box that says Show All Settings, and then all the tabs will appear. But down here there's a choice. Do you want to see recent programs or frequent programs? Frequent programs is what Microsoft is showing you. Recent programs are, just as I said, the most recently used programs. So I recommend this choice, which is not the default in the custom shell. There are directions on the Imaging Tips website for setting up all of the options that I prefer in the custom shell. The Imaging Tips website, imagingtips.com. If you go to Other Tips, there's right here Classic Start button and other setup suggestions for Windows 10. So check that out. Now, if you don't want to put in a custom shell, one other trick you can use to get to other programs that don't fit on the taskbar is to create a folder of programs that you use frequently but not all the time. And my recommendation is put that folder on the desktop, because then it's easy to add other shortcuts to that folder. You just drag them in there. Now, these are all shortcuts, and whenever you install programs, many of them throw a shortcut on your desktop. You might want to put it in here, and then if you're really not using it at any time, just delete it out of here. Shortcuts are shortcuts. You can delete them. It doesn't uninstall the program or cause any other trouble. But once you've created this folder, if you go down here to the taskbar and right click on it, one of the choices up here, toolbars, is you can add a new toolbar. See the choice New Toolbar? And what you do is you say, click on that. It asks you where the toolbar is. And since we put that shortcut in a folder on the desktop, we're going to go to Desktop over here. Here's the folder called Shortcuts. We'll select that folder. And as soon as we do that, now we have down here, right next to the little up arrow that shows us all the other icons that go down here in the system tray that are hidden, we have a thing called Shortcuts. And if we click on this little double right arrow, we see the list of all of these. And once again, the advantage of this is that you can get to it with a single click. You can get to this by just going here, a click here to get all of the list, and then a single click on the icon. And that was really just like we found with the classic shell. We had to click on the start button and then a single click on the icon that was there. So it's almost as good. It's not a changing list, but it's a list that you control and can have as many things as will fit on your screen. And I think even if you have more than fit vertically, it might go to 2 columns. So that's another great trick. So the one piece of advice I'll leave you with is don't run all your programs full screen. There are tremendous advantages in having several things open at once. You can drag and drop between them. You can get to the other program by just clicking on it. It has a lot of advantages. So learn to not use your entire screen. There are a couple programs that you'll find that for you really need all of the real estate that you have on your screen, but otherwise run them in window mode and adjust the size of the window to be appropriate for you. If you noticed, when I started Chrome, I don't think it started full screen. It didn't. I have it set up here to not start full screen, and one of the advantages here is if you drag down to the bottom, it'll take up all of this vertical space, which is very good. All right, that's it for now.